Welcome to Early Care Connection. I'm Izzy Greenberg. Today we are joined by Meryl Gay of the Connecticut Early Childhood Alliance and Ava Bermudez Zimmerman from Child Care for CT. Well, actually, she's not here yet, but I'm pretty sure she will be. That's sort of the usual crew. And more importantly, we have the Office of Early Childhood here to speak to you on updates, excuse me, to give you updates on Early Start. So let me just give you the basic housekeeping stuff and we can get right into it because they have a hard stop at 10 a.m. We are doing this in simultaneous Spanish translation. So a reminder to everyone to speak slowly enough. And if you are not able to hear the Spanish feed, again, click that globe and choose Spanish. You can also choose your caption language if you prefer it not be in English, which I believe is the default. Please use the chat to communicate with the community or for technical issues. But if you have questions for our panelists, for our guests, please use the Q&A. Questions in the chat may not be answered. Reminder before we get started that we will not have a call next week in observance of Memorial Day. So we will be back 1 week after that. All right. Let's just get started. Commissioner Bye and Deputy Commissioner Elena Trueworthy from the Office of Early Childhood are here to present some updates on Early Start. I'm just going to pass it right over to them, and I will share the slide decks in the chat in both English and Spanish just as soon as they get started. Thank you. Welcome.
Good morning. Good morning. Happy to be here. I can't believe it's Memorial Day next Monday. It's quite something. But we appreciate this forum to have a chance to talk through RFA B, really, and being able to give you data on RFA A and B, which is a really big undertaking for the Office of Early Childhood because we are sort of reprocuring the system. And we also were able to add a good number of spaces within current appropriations so that we could make sure we weren't lapsing dollars, that those dollars would end up at programs next year, not back into the general fund to help the state's fund balance. So it's been a good amount of work, but we're happy to have done it. And we're going to walk you through the data now, what we found. But also just want to say thank you. A lot of this came from your feedback during the Blue Ribbon Panel Plan. And we are, I think, coming here to say we're learning. We learned from RFA B. We made adjustments. Now we've done RFA B, and we're going to learn from RFA B as we look to maximize the number of spaces for children in Connecticut to help families and also to support programs. And we also are leaving at 10 today to negotiate up at the Capitol for more spaces because we could only fund a little over 10% of the programs that applied. So that means there's capacity, there's demand, and many really good applications in really high need communities were not funded because we're only funded 10%. But we're looking to grow the system with that endowment, and we're looking to learn from this process. So as Early Start continues, we are, just moving forward together, but with the kind of feedback we need to do this well. I'm going to turn it over to Elena to sort of describe the program and its goals, and then talk about the application process. Elena?
Great. Thank you so much, Commissioner. We can move to the next slide, please. We always like to start with some foundational information about Early Start Connecticut because it is new, right? And we're taking steps now for the official launch of Early Start to start July 1 of this year. So Early Start is the new state funding stream that combines what used to be school readiness grants, child daycare contracts, and state Head Start together. So this is coming from the Blue Ribbon Panel on childcare and the recommendations that we heard from many of you, parents, families, other stakeholders, and it's about making sure we're always constantly looking to improve what we're doing and how we're working within the early care and education system here in the state. Next slide. So what are our goals for Early Start as we continue to work through these new steps? Really to empower families and amplify parent voice, to really understand what are the needs of Connecticut's children and families. We're looking to strengthen system collaboration and partnerships, really forming a shared vision at the local level and at the state level with all community stakeholders. Improving equitable access. We all know the importance of affordable, high-quality care and making sure that those services and supports are getting to the children and families who need it. And promoting best practice, right? There's a lot of really great work that's happening out there across the state and nationally. So making sure that supports are being put in place to really promote those best practices. Next slide. Okay, so just a quick review on the application process for the request for applications, or RFA, and then B signifies the second application process that we went through. So RFA B was released on March 5th, and we held several bidders conferences to be able to answer questions, collect those questions, share information, and we posted those questions or frequently asked questions on our website. I think what's important here is that we understand that these are big changes for you all, right? For you all at your individual level and program level, but also for the system as a whole. And it was a new process, right? Really following the safe procurement rules and process for the request for applications. We have all the information on our website, and so it's actually a really good place to go back and just review, you know, what the goals are, what the steps were that we took. Next slide. Commissioner?
Okay, thanks, Helena, for that overview. And we're trying to go through this quickly so we maximize time for questions and feedback. Okay, so we received 731 applications requesting $139 million. And you can see the breakout of centers and family child care homes. And I'm sure this was made clear in the bidders conference, but some money was set aside for family child care, as well as centers in the past. Before our infant toddler RFP a couple of years ago, family child care was not part of our system. And then through both listening to the community, to families, through the Blue Ribbon Panel process, we added family child care to the system. And that has been well received, and the family child care community has applied for funding. So this sort of tells you who applied. Next slide. So, I mean, we went through all of this at the bidders conference, but I think it's always good to remind people what the points were. And this might be an area where you want to give us feedback, but this was where we were. We gave some points for new providers. And to be honest, in the outcome, when as commissioner, I looked at it, many of the providers were existing state-funded programs, despite the 10 points for new providers, because they tended to be accredited, they tended to have full-time spaces, they tended to be in the registry. So other things, and particularly they tend to be located in high-need communities, which is where the vast majority of these dollars went, because there weren't that many spaces and there were so many applicants. I should also say, you know, things were tight. You know, it's not like there was a huge gap between those that were funded and not. So all of these points matter. So we need to look at this and continue to take feedback if these are the right sort of tools, but this is what we used. And we certainly spent time talking with folks in the community about this and about our priorities. So these are how the points were assigned, and an RFA is different than an RFP. And the idea there is to be more equity-based, because some organizations have grant writers and can afford to pay grant writers. So when you do an RFP with a lot of written answers, you can sometimes advantage those organizations. So an RFA simply looks at the data and scores it. No one from OEC sat in a committee ranking applications. It was the data that ranked the applications. Okay, next slide. So we gave out $11.8 million for spaces, 57 centers and 23 family childcare homes. You can see only of the centers, only 3 were new state-funded providers, despite that giving points for new providers, because we just want to make sure we're having childcare where families need it. And so that was the idea. The first RFA A was only for existing providers, but RFA B was trying to encourage new providers. But you can see in the family childcare space, because, you know, there's not a long history of family childcare participation in the state-funded system, that most of those were new providers to the system, and many of those in high-need communities. Next slide. So this just gives you the breakdown of the total funding for RFA A and RFA B. There are 429 programs in 83 communities. I think sometimes people don't realize how large the system is and how many programs are participating. And now that we're shifting to direct contracts, you know, it's sort of OEC has the direct relationship with programs. So we are doing some technical assistance for programs who've never done contracts with the state before, trying to make this a more accessible process for programs. But this really gives you the breakdown of what kind of programs, how many communities, how much annual funding, and it also breaks out the early Head Start funding. The other thing I just wanted to say is some of you have been also involved in advocacy on the governor's endowment. Now that supposes adding 600 spaces, 600 more spaces, which would add about 3% to the system overall in 2026. So we would just be trying to use this data to take that, you know, to go down the list for the next 600 spaces rather than do a whole new RFA. We're open to your questions about that, but that is our plan right now. And so just, I think this just is some data, but let's just go to the key findings. I think we were surprised by the number of applicants. Communities. I don't know who's doing the slides, but can you go to the next slide? Maybe it's not
Sorry,
working.
Commissioner.
Sorry, Commissioner. We all froze.
Oh.
Here you go.
Could you hear me, or should I start again?
We could not hear you, Commissioner.
Okay, so the key, you know, some of the key findings are we were really surprised by the number of applicants and the number of places who can expand right now. So there's significant demands. I think we have to look at our process a bit to help programs that are in the development stage, because not everyone would be ready July 1st. So programs in deserts, for example, needed more time to get up and running. I also think we don't want to disadvantage public schools in some of those rural areas. And so we have to look at our process on that, because in more rural parts of the state, the public schools are a big part of the system. So we need to make sure we're being balanced there. I think we like the RFA process because it does take out some of that inequity that happens when you have to hire a grant writer to get the funding. But we're open to your feedback there. And I think it's important to use data to inform those decisions in the RFA process. But that said, you know, we're open to your feedback about the criteria. And as we take the next step, we can think through that. And I would just, close by saying 90% of programs that applied did not get funded pretty much. And so more people are unhappy than happy today on this call. But these are spaces we've been able to add within available appropriations. We are looking at a significant expansion of the system over the next 7 years if the endowment passes. And so we've got to get this right, and we've got to take your feedback for when there is significant expansion. So I'll stop there, and we're open to your questions. We have about 12 minutes for questions.
Great.
And we're happy to come back. I'm sorry, we're just working on the endowment bill with the legislature, so.
If you want to ask a question verbally, I see someone's hand is raised. Please chat me just to let me know that you want to do that, because a lot of times people raise hands accidentally and I don't want to risk wasting time on that. So just chat me to tell me what your question is. And I'll get started from the Q&A. Can you explain more about only being funded 10%? Is that why only one of our 3 sites were awarded for additional slots? Is it just the bulk of?
It's just, we had so many more applications than we had funding. So we only were able to fund about, it was like 10.8% of the programs that applied.
Why were programs allowed to apply in RFA B if they already had state-funded spaces? This seems that they get 2 bites at the apple to the detriment of programs that are not yet state-funded.
Yeah, I appreciate that question. I think part of that is simply that the current programs we're trying to, this, and especially as you think of in the endowment, it goes out and out and out. You start with the highest need communities, so the high social vulnerability, high desert scores. And then you go out over time as there's more funding. So we did give 10 points for new programs. So we did give advantage, but sometimes the community needs outweighed a new program in maybe another community, the community need in a high need community. So that's what I was talking about in terms of points. One thing we could think about next time is just setting aside, like we do with family childcare, X amount of dollars for new programs. But I would want to have a lot more, transparency and listening sessions before the next RFP to get everybody's feedback on that. Because we also don't want to disadvantage current state-funded programs that might have space and are in high need communities. And, they're where families need the spaces. So it's that's why you give points, but it's not determinate.
If I can just jump in here, because I think it ties in really nicely with a great question that's following it up, which is around, is there a plan to support programs that applied for RFA B but weren't awarded, right? Because maybe they're not NIAC accredited, right? Or maybe they're but they're interested in becoming so. And so, yes, the plan, we have current supports out there and available, but we definitely can raise up that awareness of what is available currently. And then we can also get feedback. What are some supports that we aren't currently offering support, and where would it be most helpful? Our goal, right? Our idea is to be as supportive as possible and to make sure that providers you all have what you need in order to, meet your goals around quality, right? Around utilization, whatever it may be, so.
Someone was asking also if we could share the last screen. I don't think we need to do that. I just want you all to know that I've reshared the English presentation, and so you can get all of the links you need right from there. And a reminder to folks to please put your questions in the Q&A. I cannot answer them if they're in the chat. And I'm sorry to Martha, if you can put your question in the Q&A, that will be, we just are short on time today, and so I'm hesitant to take callers this morning. I'm sorry. I should not have allowed for hand raising, and that's my fault. My apologies. Elena, there was sort of a second part of that question also, which was around childcare deserts. And is there prioritization, a sort of geographic prioritization, or will there be, I guess, as you go into the next phase?
Sure, so RFA B did take into account deserts, right? And social vulnerability index. And so we were able to look at that data and create a map and then link that map to the points around social vulnerability and desert, because we are very interested in ensuring that the disbursement of funding really goes across the state and reaches the deserts where possible. So we did take that into account. Again, like the commissioner said, we'll look at how that rolled out and how that played out and see if there are any lessons learned that we can take from there.
Great. And if someone from the OEC staff could answer the one question that's directed at you guys in the chat, that would be amazing. Okay, so a couple more things. There's a comment from Maria here that we need more funding for providers waiting for the early start opportunity and for many who are well prepared to have the same opportunity. So just wanted to highlight that. And then there's another one coming from Spanish. Give me 1 second to get it through my Spanish is good enough, but not perfect. So I always run everything through the translator. I don't want to make any mistakes with people's language. So okay, when the RFA B results in negative impact to existing or currently enrolled children and families, how is this communicated to those current children and families that will no longer have access to the care they need? In our example, we did not apply to expand, but to support current families. So we got awarded funding, but not the amount we requested based on existing children and families currently enrolled or attending. It's stressful and seems counterintuitive because it negatively impacts current families depending on different situations. So,
Yeah.
And for additional background, we're a pre-existing state-funded center.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that. I think the way, when I said we adapted with RFA A, so is that we used a 2-year average enrollment in RFA A, but for some programs, they'd been able to enroll more children. So we increased RFA A up to, they could either use their 2-year average or the number of children enrolled now. So when we went to RFA B, it was our impression that everyone in RFA A had been awarded spaces for everybody currently enrolled. I have heard from 2 programs now who say, I'm gonna have to disenroll children. That was never the intent. The intent was to fix RFA A and get up to people's current enrollment, and then with RFA B, help them expand enrollment if they had a demand. So somehow in between the end of RFA A and when the RFA B results came out, the number of enrolled at the time of RFA A has changed. So we are going to speak with some individual programs to try to figure out what happened, because our intent is not to disenroll children. But we also have a certain amount of money, and that's the money we have. So we're going to be talking with some programs to try to figure out how we got from current enrollment in RFA A, and then somehow there's more than that now at the end of RFA B. You know, so it's just, I think there's some individual situations that we need to figure out. And we have reached out to at least one of the programs, and I know we're reaching out to another to try to figure out how we went from RFA A fully funded to now RFA B. If we didn't get expansion, there's somehow children that need to be disenrolled. So we've got to figure that out.
Thank you. Meryl, go ahead.
So you have a lot of folks who applied who didn't get funded. Do they know where they fit in like what their score was on their application? And do you have, sort of like to know whether I'm 1 or 2 points off versus 15 points off? I think people would sort of understanding the mechanics of how this all worked would be helpful.
Okay. Yeah, we can talk about that internally.
Okay.
Because we are thinking about the next round if the endowment is approved, and even looking at the scoring and making sure that scoring is, meeting the priorities, or if it's that particularly around deserts and high need communities. So we will take that internally and then figure out how we can share that.
And I did see a question from Representative Comey asking, like, is there a list of the programs that got funded that's public yet?
There's certainly a list, and I'm sure it's public information, so we can get that out.
Okay, thank you. A little hard to prioritize these guys. I'm sorry. There's a lot of questions here in 2 minutes. While Circle would prefer, this is from Tammy Robinson at Circle, while Circle would prefer an RFA process over an RFP process, there was still a huge amount of inequity for new applicants. We hope OEC will continue the RFA process with revisions to ensure new applicants are not disadvantaged in the process in the future. So some of these just comments.
Well, I think that's important. And if Tammy can just, write to us and tell us what made it feel that it disadvantaged new providers would help us.
Should that go to you, to your email?
Sure.
All right.
Beth Bye at ct.gov.
Yep. All right, so let's see. There's a lot of questions in the Q&A, guys. There's no way we're going to get to all of them, and I'm sorry about that, but we have to wrap up at 10.
And we can come back because we truly do want feedback on this process. So, I'm just going to look at my calendar for next Monday if folks want us to come.
Next Monday is Memorial Day. And we are
Well, we could come, June 1st or June 2nd or
Great.
9th. We'll figure out which
schedule
of those dates.
all right,
Yeah.
and I will in the meantime take the Q&A and send it to your staff.
Great.
So you all are prepared for 2 weeks from now when we come back together. And maybe some of those questions can get incorporated into that day.
Yeah, we absolutely need the questions and we need the feedback. This is a system that was the same for 50 years, and we heard loud and clear during our listening sessions that it needed to be updated and people needed access. And so, we're trying, but we're only going to get better if we listen. So
Yeah.
we're
All right, so
ready.
then we will pledge to take the Q&A
Great.
and the chat and send it all to your team. And then we will see you back here in 2 weeks.
Great.
And we'll be almost at the end of the session by then.
Almost.
All right, fingers
All right.
crossed. Have a great Memorial Day. Thank
Yeah,
you so
you
much for
too.
coming.
Bye-bye.
All right, I'm sorry, guys. There was just no way we were going to get to all of these questions. There was only like 3, and then suddenly there was like 30. And so anyway, we're doing our best. I'll get that all over to them, and we'll hopefully have some of this stuff answered for you in June. Meryl, do you have any updates?
So yes, today the legislature is in session to vote on a bill to fix a hole in the current budget. There's about $300 million that is needed for the Medicaid program, Husky, that they need to approve today in order to be able to pay providers who are owed that on Friday. That has been controversial. There's a nice article in the Connecticut Mirror if you want more details about it. But all of this has been wrapped up in the debate with the governor about the spending caps and the fiscal constraints that the state has. We have been generating large surpluses that have been used to pay down debt and fill the rainy day fund at the same time that current spending needs have been starved of resources. So, legislators are worried that educational cost sharing grants for public schools are going to be cut. There are just a whole slew of organizations that are worried that they're not going to get funded this year. Within all of this, there is the governor's proposal to take $300 million of some of that surplus money and put it outside of the spending cap into an endowment, and to then be able to use 10% of that money each year to strengthen and expand the state-funded early start system. Commissioner Bye mentioned that some of the money that would be available through that 10% of the endowment each year would go to expanding the number of slots, the plan in FY 28, which would start beginning of 2020, July 2027, would be a big increase in the per child payments to the Early Start program. It's sort of pulling Care for Kids out of the state-funded programs so that it's available for all the other providers, by fully funding the state-funded programs. So they don't need to rely on Care for Kids. All of this is still very much in play. There are only a couple of weeks left in the session, which ends on the first Wednesday of June. And now is the time, if you have not contacted your legislators, to give them a call. They are hearing from lots and lots of people, but I think many folks have been feeling like we're in pretty good shape. The governor and the speaker and the Senate president all have big early childhood proposals. Those big proposals have to get merged into one deal, and they need some pressure to get it done. You just heard Commissioner Bye leaving to go to the negotiations. So,
And Representative Comey just saying, please email us.
Yes. So Vanessa, if you can drop the petition into the chat.
Yeah, there's two separate things happening right now.
Yeah.
There's a letter writing campaign and there's a petition. Both have value. So
Yeah.
the letter writing template will just walk you through the steps. It'll automatically send to your lawmakers and to the governor. You can personalize it and you don't need to. You can, you don't have to. There's also a petition, and Meryl's going to tell you more about that.
Yeah. So the petition has we have a flyer with a QR code that providers can stick on the door and ask their parents to scan the code and sign the petition. It's real fast and real easy. We need to get a lot more people contacting legislators. When you sign the petition, you'll get a thank you. It'll tell you how you can send a message to your legislators as well, and sort of walk you through that process. So this is, let's see, where do we, I'm just looking at, yeah, so you've got the coalition's one. This is, they are a little bit different, and so you can do both. The more messages legislators and the governor are getting, the more likelihood we get this thing passed this year.
Great. All right.
Okay.
Thank you. Is that all for today?
Yeah, well, I guess the only other updates are from Washington. The Republican majority in the House is trying to pass what they're calling the big beautiful bill by Memorial Day. This is the bill that would extend the tax breaks for the rich and cut services for a whole lot of people, cutting Medicaid, cutting SNAP. Just, yeah, there's a whole slew of cuts that would be coming through. That bill ran into some opposition from the ultra-conservative budget hawks in the Republican Party, who were saying that wasn't making big enough cuts. And so there's still a battle to be had there. But those big cuts are looming out there and will have a big impact on Connecticut state budget.
We have a question in the chat here for Representative Comey, who has graciously agreed to join us this morning for a minute. Mindy is asking Robin Comey, Representative Comey, and of course others, from your perspective, how much does a personalized letter help versus any of these kind of standard letters? Just tell us from your perspective, when you're getting these things, you're getting the petition, you're getting form letters, you're getting a personalized letter, you're getting a phone call, whatever you're getting. What are the most effective things people can be doing? Are they all effective? Do them all, do some more? What's your thoughts?
I love that question because it's really easy. Like, we legislators would love if you you know, you can use the standard template, but we really would love a little bit of personalization up front. And if the letter does not say what town you're from, then you likely will not get a communication back because, for instance, we get, you know, 40 emails about, just for the sake of argument, homeschooling. And if there is not a town on it, we can't, you know, it would be very time consuming. I would have to spend all day answering emails and not pass any laws and negotiate and do all those things that we need to do on this end. So legislators typically respond to constituents or people from your town. So definitely send it to and personalize it. You know, also you can call the office if it's just easier to pick up the phone and call your representative on, you know, the house phone. They say, hey, you got 7 calls today. I got 7 calls today. And all they want you to do is support early care, right? I mean, how easy is that on our end? I don't have to solve the, you know, Department of Motor Vehicles issue with not getting appointments fast enough or not picking up the phone at DSS. Voting for a bill is like the easiest ask, I think, that you can make.
And typically you will be speaking to a staff member. So it's not even like you have to have the nerves of speaking directly to, you know, if that does make you nervous, it shouldn't. But you're not speaking directly to your lawmaker. You're really speaking with their staff and saying, I live in this person's district and here's what I want them to do. And it's like a 30-second call, right?
Yeah. And, you know, if you do see your legislator out in the community at the grocery store, doesn't hurt to say, hey, you know, these are what really important to me. So that's okay too. And I would say, you know, you guys did a great job last week with the morning without childcare. And let's just keep the pressure up, right? I mean, it was in the news all last week. Let's get some news this week. Write a letter to the editor, write an op-ed or something like that.
Mm-hmm. And I would love to say that I think Representative Coma, you may be the only lawmaker who made it to 2 rallies last week. So thank you very much.
I'm an overachiever.
We love it. We love it. We love the support and we really appreciate it. So thank you so much.
At all. No.
We really do appreciate it. So, all right. Fantastic. Thank you.
I'm going to do it without you. Thank you.
All right.
Have a great day, everybody.
You all can do this. This is easy. So actually, Ava, I'm not sure if you are available to speak.
I am.
All right. You want to just give a quick morning without childcare recap then?
Yeah.
It was awesome.
I can't figure. Okay, sorry. I'm in transit to the legislative office building. I'll keep my camera off. It was amazing. We had all the numbers came in from the different rallies. We're hitting at about from what people are counting from photos and being there, about 1,500 people between all 15 rallies throughout the state, which was amazing. We also had the New London and Eastern Corner rallies get a lot of press, which is exciting because typically Eastern Connecticut, for providers on the call, know that really feel like it's a forgotten corner of the state when it comes to childcare. So to have, more than 4 press hits about their rallies and how they also have the need for childcare is exciting to see that people are paying attention. And the legislators in that area also attended their events, which is also very exciting and are on board with fixing childcare. Thank you to all of the captains and shout out to all of the partner organizations that made it happen. I'm not going to list them now because then I'd forget, but we are going to make sure that we give you a shout out through social media and email this week. And in regards to what's happening this week, echoing what Representative Comey, Merrill, and Izzy just said, we have to keep the pressure on. We have to make sure that on the heels of the rallies, we are getting people mobilized for our lobby days. So every Wednesday and even on the last day of session, we do have lobby days sponsored by Childcare 4CT and operated with our partner organizations. The lobby days start from 11 a.m. on Wednesdays until 7:30 p.m. If you haven't signed up yet, not too late to do so. And then that way we can go to the LOB and to the Capitol, talk to your representative, talk to lawmakers, and remind them what's at stake. I will say last week's lobby day, in addition to doing the rallies, we still had a lobby day. It is surprising how many legislators have no clue what's going on. So they do have, you know, an idea that the governor's doing something, but even in their own caucuses, even in their own meetings, the sentiment is, oh yeah, the governor's doing something, but I'm kind of too busy to pay attention to childcare. When it's on, you know, when I have to vote for it, I'll pay attention to it, and not really paying attention to the nuance of what's going on. So it's our duty as advocates to remind them why we're doing this, what we're advocating for, and that's where lobby days, the petitions, calling your legislators, staying engaged really matters. So congrats to everyone for a successful Morning Without Childcare Day of Action, and let's keep up the work with putting pressure and coming to lobby days and showing up.
Thank you. And, you know, if that day would not have happened without the incredible rally captains who made it possible and did so much work. So thank you to them as well, and to all the lawmakers who did come out. And we, I think there's going to be a lot out on social media this week, sort of shouting out those lawmakers, shouting out those, you know, what still needs to happen. So I would pay attention to your social media this week for more instructions and to know who to thank. That's important. Okay, anything else before we wrap up today? Meryl, Ava?
Just say that the legislature usually is in session the last Saturday before the end of session, which is the 31st. Hopefully we have this all wrapped up before then. But for all of you who, you know, can't get away from your centers or your childcare businesses during the week, if we don't have a deal voted on by Saturday the 31st, that would be a day for lots of people to come to the Capitol.
Thank you. All right, so save the date, folks. And there are there's lobby days every Wednesday until the end of the session. So there's, you know, lots of opportunities to be up at the Capitol. I know Meryl will be there, Ava will be there, lots of folks will be there in the next couple of weeks. There's a lot going on. So any day that you can, you know, do you have a day off, you have a little moment of time, you can be there, you know, contact Meryl, contact Ava, and someone is likely to be there to meet you. And if not, then we can give you good instruction on what to do if you have that time.
I think that Vanessa is trying to get the flyer so that she can upload it to people before we finish right now. Is that correct, Vanessa?
Also, yeah,
yes, that's correct. So she's
that is correct. So
almost there.
If you're waiting on a flyer, so hang in if you're waiting for a flyer. But also while we do that, we've got actually two questions here. Wondering if you have an updated list of bills or summaries so we know what we're supporting. And then Eileen, similar kind of thing. Can we get an update on what bills are still alive and which ones need the most support?
Yeah, I can do that. And there is something else that happened that was not one of our bills, but got wrapped into a bigger bill that many of you will be interested in, which is a bill that the title is about like a certificate of civics that could go onto your diploma, but in among all the stuff that got added into it is a provision that would make the waivers for kindergarten entry optional this September and make them go away a year from now, so that there would no longer be a waiver. It would be hard and fast. You'd need to be 5 before the start of kindergarten in September of 2026. I will put all of that that is in my little bill tracker, which I will go find and share with everybody
Is it the bill tracker you shared earlier this year? Is it the same
Yep,
one?
I think it is.
Okay, so people may still have that.
Yeah, but I can share it right now.
Great.
Computer's being slow.
No problem. Well, if folks are looking,
Yeah.
oh, there it is. Great, perfect, bill tracker. All right, fantastic. All right, everyone. Sorry again that we couldn't get through all your questions with a half
Okay.
hour. I'm glad we got what we got. And again, next week is off, but the following week, we've got Office of Early Childhood here to come back and talk more about early start. So you good, Meryl, if we wrap it up?
Yep.
All right. So thanks so much, everyone. Have a wonderful, restful holiday, and keep advocating over the next 2 weeks. This is not rest time. You get Memorial Day off, but you have to keep contacting your lawmakers, even if it's just a one quick second, phone call every morning to start your day. You can do it. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great week.